Hello, welcome back to the SomePLAOSINT series, where I put together a few recent interesting stories about the People's Liberation Army. This is week 2. If you haven't watched week 1, make sure to check it out from the link above. Now, let's dive into it. The first story is actually from last week, popping up last Sunday. China's large B-21 size stealth UAV, or bomber if you like, now commonly referred to as the GJX, was recorded flying. The existence of this aircraft was first revealed by the War Zone just last month, September 2025, through a satellite image obtained from the Planet Lab on the PLA's more secretive Malan Air Base. This base is located in a sparsely populated area in the northwest Xinjiang region, and the PLA often uses it to test various advanced systems to minimize public exposure. It is difficult for us to know whether the discovery of this aircraft and the subsequent appearance of the recorded flight on social media are breaches of operation security or controlled leaks. But one thing we do know is that this aircraft is huge, especially for an UAV. Here I drew the silhouette of the Chinese GJX based on the satellite image and compared it with that of the B-21. We can see that the GJX has a slightly larger wingspan of 42 meters, or almost 138 feet in freedom unit, compared to the commonly cited 40 meter or 132 feet wingspan of the B-21. The fuselage of the GJX also seems to be a bit longer. This is thanks to its crank kite layout compared to the more traditional flying wing layout of the B-21. According to research done by Northrop Grumman, the developer of the B-21, the cranked kite design has a few more advantages. Just basing off these characteristics, the GJX might enjoy a volume advantage versus the B-21, especially considering it being an unmanned aircraft, which the space and weight required for housing human pilots and keeping them alive can be effectively eliminated. Without further details, let's assume the engines used in the GJX are less efficient. We can at least assume similar performance in terms of range and payload out of the GJX compared to the B-21. Of course, new information will emerge to disprove or validate these assessments. If the above assumptions were true, the GJX, coupling with long-range munitions such as air-launched ballistic missiles, can put multiple US and allied bases, which were considered relatively safe given their distance from mainland China, at risk. And the PLA will have more options to conduct long-range strategic strikes beyond just land-based ballistic missiles. Story number 2 is about the PLA Navy and Chinese shipbuilding again. The first Type 076 amphibious assault ship, Sichuan, has reportedly completed its first Catapult trial at berth, signaling another milestone reached in the ship's construction process. We can see in this image posted on Chinese social media just a few days ago that there seems to be an object placed on the flight deck. This could be the dead-load vehicle, basically a block of steel weighing as much as a fully loaded aircraft that is designed to be launched into the water by carrier catapults for testing the performance of the catapult. Here we can see one placed on the deck of China's carrier Fujian when it underwent catapult test in shipyard. Without a clear image, the above can be just guesswork, but here it's a more direct evidence. This is a navigational warning published by China's Maritime Safety Administration forbidding navigation from October 20th to October 29th only in the area directly in front of the Type 076. I want to highlight again the speed of shipbuilding for the PLA Navy. The dry dock in which the Type 076 was built had its own construction finished by the end of September 2023. Then the keel of the Type 076 was laid in October 2023. The ship was then launched in December 2024, and now dock trial and catapult trial started in October 2025. We could reasonably expect sea trials starting by December 2025, so that's 2 years and 2 months from keel laid to the beginning of sea trials. comparing the first Type 076 Sichuan to ships with similar rules and size, the USN's USS America and Italian Navy's Trieste. The former took exactly twice as much, 4 years and 4 months from keel laid to sea trial started, while the latter took 3 years and 6 months, completing the same process. Note that the Sichuan is a more complex ship, being the first Catapult amphibious assault ship and with advanced subsystem such as an electromagnetic catapult and an integrated electric propulsion system. The catapult on the Type 076 has almost the same length to that of the Fujian carrier, indicating the ship can launch fully loaded fixed-wing fighters such as the J-35. Given it doesn't have an angled deck, operating a large complement of manned catapult aircraft could be deemed more risky and less efficient. It is widely believed that the ship would mainly operate medium-sized fixed-wing combat and reconnaissance drones, one of which could be the GJ-21, another tailless design coming out of China, which was publicly displayed during the VJ Day military parade on September 3, 2025. Once the first Type 076 enters service and becomes fully operational, the PLA Navy and its Marine Corps can effectively form up a Chinese version of the amphibious Ready Group, with its own organic fixed-wing air assets. A few fifth-generation fixed-wing fighters, a dozen or so stealth UCAVs, some attack helicopters, and will be a serious boost to the PLA's power projection capabilities across the high seas. Story number 3, it's about new development near the Sino-Indian border. New air defense complexes are being built with hardened shelters protecting missile launchers. The existence of the first of such complexes at the east bank of Pankong Lake, Tibet, was brought to public attention by defense analyst Damien Simon on Twitter or X in July 2025. Later, US-based all-source analysis provided high-resolution images on the complex depicting the hardened shelters and also identified a similar complex in Gar County, Tibet. Indian media, India Today, acquired better images from image provider Ventor and published a detailed report about these two sites this week. All links are in the description. What we are looking at here is an illustration I created for the hardened shelter in these new surface-to-air missile sites, based on the satellite images from the above sources. Each single shelter has 2 segregated compartments which can accommodate 1 transporter erected launcher vehicle each. A single compartment also has a lightly hardened retractable roof which can cover the inside when needed. The shelter has slightly hardened concrete walls with earth covering. With these shelters, the air defense systems deployed there would be significantly better protected compared to the ones deployed at regular air defense sites elsewhere in China. The thickness of the roof of these shelters does not seem to offer protection against a direct hit from a larger munition, such as air-dropped bombs, cruise missiles, or ballistic missiles. And it shouldn't. What the shelter is designed to offer protection against are the following. First, enemy overhead ISR efforts such as satellites and aerial reconnaissance. This will complicate enemy mission planning, since it becomes more difficult to discern whether the SAM system is deployed here or not, and whether additional force and munitions should be allocated to target these shelters. Second, shrapnels and shockwaves from a missed hit. During combat, the PLA is likely to deploy effective electronic warfare capabilities that degrade the precision of enemy strikes. So even if the SAM system is deployed here and under attack, the missile launchers won't be damaged by near misses. Third, direct hits from a loitering munition. The roof and walls of the shelter may be thick enough to take a direct hit from loitering munitions designed for suppression or destruction of enemy air defense, aka SEED or DEAD operations. Those loitering munitions tend to carry a smaller warhead under 20 kilograms. Fourth, missile cook-off if one missile launcher is hit. If a tail vehicle is hit and the missiles in it start to cook off. The shelter housing it can contain some of that explosion, and the other shelters can protect the missile launchers they are housing. So one hit would not lead to a catastrophic destruction of an entire battery. From existing satellite images, these shelters don't seem to have a door, hardened or not, to cover the entrance. This indicates that they are not designed to protect the missile launchers against enemy FPV attacks. It is understandable that these sites are about 65 to 110 kilometers away from the line of actual control, so the risk of a direct FPV attack would be relatively low. We are at the end of this episode of SomePLAOSINT with the top 3 stories I picked for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Of course, there are a lot more other interesting stories this week about the PLA. I could not include them all here. Please leave a comment about your favorite PLA stories this week, and I will see if I can cover it in future videos.